in which I was depressed. It was, and I'm not a depressed person. I've been depressed only a couple of times, and this was my first time, and because I was failing everything, I couldn't do anything. I tried to go to college. I did only like 3 months, completely failed. I left everything behind. So everything that I was doing, I was quitting. I couldn't make anything. And then one day, when I was about to be 21 years old, I remember I went to sleep crying because I knew that I was a complete failure and I was not gonna go anywhere. Everything that I was doing, people were supporting me. Everything was a fail, and I went to sleep. And when I woke up, it was very interesting because in my mind, it came the words of French Foreign Legion out of nowhere, without no reason. It's like, so something gave me the answer that I needed to go there. And once that happened, it was a shock. I felt a shock on me. I came to my mother and I said to my mother, Mother, I think I found the answer of what to do, because my mother she was sad and she was sick of me also, because I would say I was worthless. I was not doing nothing good, and she was tired of it, And I said, I'm going to the French Foreign Legion. And she looked at me, and tears came out of her eyes, and she said, Andres, if I was a man, I would go to the French Foreign Legion. And 2 weeks later, she bought me an airplane ticket. 2 weeks later, I was gone.
Welcome to the Leading with Vulnerability podcast. I'm your host, Yuma Barnett. And today I have one of my most unique guests I've ever had, Andres Montenegro. He's got a story straight out of a book, and I hope he writes one someday about it. He's probably the world's only French Foreign Legionnaire, Ranger, Lancero, which is another type of Ranger school from Colombian Ranger School. And he's also a doctoral candidate at the University of Charleston, West Virginia, where we're both alumni. Mm-hmm. Go Eagles. I'm super excited to have him on here today to share his story. I'm not going to occupy the microphone anymore. I'm going to pass it over to Monty, as he goes by, and everybody. Mm-hmm. And he's going to introduce himself, and we're going to get into this amazing story.
Well, you said a little bit about me. My name is Andres Montenegro. Everybody calls me Monty. How we can start? Let's start with my life. How we started from everything. So, some people, they always wonder if I'm where I come from, and I'm from Costa Rica, from a normal family. I'm not saying that I was a wealthy family or middle class, but it was a normal family, with ups and downs in everything, with a lot of how can I say, there was a lot of mountains in front of us in our lives, in some periods economically. An interesting part about my family is that what was my brother, my sister, my mother, they were people that actually study a lot. They study a lot, and my mother actually, she's a lawyer. She's about to retire next month in December. My brother, he's an electromechanical engineer, and my sister, she was an economist. Unfortunately, sometimes this type of degrees here in the United States, you will be a very wealthy person with a huge future, but in Costa Rica, is not. Is not going to be the result of that having that type of career, you are going to be like all set in your life. So unfortunately, I when I was growing up, we went through really bad moments, and I ended up going to like the most terrible schools in history. I have some ranger friends that they came to Costa Rica, and I showed them my high school where I went, and they told me this looks like a Cambodian jail. That's how bad it was, and it was very bad. And so I was um, I was the system was bad. Everything we as young people, we didn't see the future, and we didn't know what to do. And actually, I was a huge failure in my teenagers. Everything that I was doing, I failed. I was terrible in classes. Over there, they used the score points from 1 to 100. I was always 50s, 60s, 40s, 30s, and sometimes I had to repeat an entire year one time. So I was really bad. And after I finished high school, and I remember I had a small job. I worked in a bank, and I was there only like for 4 or 5 months, I think so. And then I quit. They were paying me, if I remember, they were paying me like $100 or $150 per month, something like this. And a complete disaster. All I was doing, it was just wasting my life. All I was thinking, it was going out with the guys from the neighborhood and going and party and just lose myself in vices. And that's it. Yeah. And so that was it. That was my time. And then I went to like, let's say, like a hole in my mind in which I was depressed. It was and I'm not a depressed person. I've been depressed only a couple of times, and this was my first time. And because I was failing everything, I couldn't do anything. I tried to go to college. I did only like 3 months, completely failed. I left everything behind. So everything that I was doing, I was quitting. I couldn't make anything. And then one day, when I was about to be or 21 years old, I remember I went to sleep crying because I knew that I was a complete failure and I was not gonna go anywhere. Everything that I was doing, people were supporting me. Everything was a fail, and I went to sleep. And when I woke up, it was very interesting because in my mind, it came the words of French Foreign Legion out of nowhere, without no reason. It's like, so something gave me the answer that I needed to go there. And once that happened, it was a shock. I felt a shock on me. You know, I came to my mother and I said to my mother, "Mother, I think I found the answer of what to do." Because my mother she was sad and she was sick of me also because I would say I was worthless. I was not doing nothing good, and she was tired of it. And I said, "I'm going to the French Foreign Legion." And she looked at me, and tears came out of her eyes, and she said, "Andres, if I was a man, I would go to the French Foreign Legion." And 2 weeks later, she buy me an airplane ticket. 2 weeks later, I was gone, and I went to France, and over there, I just went with my passport. I went with a bag with clothing, and then after that, I got to Paris. I didn't understand train systems. I didn't know what was a train. Of course, like, I know what was a train, but I'd never
Right.
seen train systems or trains. Didn't know absolutely nothing. And
And you didn't speak French
I
yet, right?
didn't nothing, of course, only Spanish. And I came out of the airplane. I go through customs, and customs, it was like, over there in France, there are people, they speak more languages. And
Yeah.
I remember the guy from the customs, he spoke Spanish, and he says like, "A dónde vas?" He said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm going to the French Foreign Legion." And he said, "Good." And he gave me back the passport, and he just let me go. That was not a lot of a process. And that was after 9/11. That was in 2004, 2005. And in 2004, end of 2004, yes. And when I go through it, I came out and I was lost. And I think my face, It was very clear. And this is another interesting part also. We're gonna go through this. I want people to know some interesting things that happen. When I was there in the airport is Charles de Gaulle
Yeah.
is connected with the train system. So if you go lower, there's a train system there also. And I was lost, and I was just watching this and everything. And then suddenly, I saw a man in a suit, very, very well suit. He was a tall man. He might be, it was like maybe a 6 foot tall man, but I couldn't describe if he was European or what was it. I didn't know a lot about culture in that time. All I know is like I didn't know where he was coming from, and he approached to me and he said, "You're lost." But he said it with such a refined voice, and he said to me in Spanish. And I'm like, what a beautiful Spanish he said. He says, like, where are you trying to go? And I said, I'm trying to go to Fort de Nogent. Well, at that time I had another accent for French. And he said, come with me. And didn't know nothing how I'm gonna follow a stranger, but like I said, he was in a suit and everything. He had a suitcase, and he said, "Follow me," and we went to the train station, and he was in. So where are you going? "Well, I'm going to the French Foreign Legion." I said, this is very interesting. Well, let me tell you, and he was speaking in Spanish all this time. Let me tell you, um, you're entering into a new society, and your life is going to change. I have to tell you something else too. Be careful with the people around here in this city. There is going to be a lot of liars and a lot of people that are going to try to make schemes. There is a type of people here that they don't know in Latin America. And I didn't say nothing about that I was from Costa Rica, but my accent was clearly from Latin America. I don't have that from Spain. So he said that, but the way he was talking to me, it was very, very strange. And he said, I said to him, I remember, I hope I can make it in the French Foreign Legion. And he said to me, don't worry, you're gonna make it. And then in that moment, there was a stop. He told me what to do in the stops. And then after he said, I have to go now. Have a good trip, and I know you're gonna make it. And he left. Never saw that person again, of course, but he left. He disappeared, completely went away. I never forget him. Imagine, it's been a little bit more than 20 years,
Yeah.
almost 20 years, and I never forget him. And he was he was, I don't know what was it, but it was interesting the way he was talking and the way he said, "You're gonna make it," So I did what he told me, and I went to the place, to the area of Fort de Nogent, and I got lost in the neighborhood. So I was walking there maybe a couple of hours, and finally I saw this huge fort that it was huge. Imagine the fort when Jeanne d'Arc was
Yeah.
there fighting or things like this. Just imagine a fort like that, a very old fort, and the door was maybe the height of this house. It was a very huge door, and I remember I went there, and again I knocked the door, and it was with these huge handles.
This is like out of a movie or a novel.
Yeah, kind of like a movie. So I went there. I was there, and suddenly just came out the guy with a kepi. The kepi is the white hat that they
Yeah.
have. And he came out there, but he was a very old man. He was maybe, I would say that maybe he was in his 40s, but I'm thinking now maybe he's been like drinking too much in his life,
Too much cigarettes?
and too much cigarettes. He comes out, he was completely like a prune, I don't know. He came out and he looked at me, and he just said, passport. I gave him my passport immediately. He closed the door for 10 minutes. I stay outside, and then after he opens the door, and then after I enter to the fort, and then he told me, go and sit down inside of this room. There was a room. I closed the door. He closed the door, and he left me there like for 2-3 hours. Finally came out another legionnaire, And I think he was like a Samoan, a Samoan, and he comes out and he said he was only making signs. I said, "Come here," the signs of "come here." I followed him, and then after he took me to one of the area of the sleeping area, and he gave me food. I didn't eat nothing all day. He gave me food, and I ate the food. It was not a lot, but he gave me food. And then after he took me to the bed, and he just made like this dodo. That's a word. Dodo is like a sleeping, but the kids they use that word in French, so it's not like an older person doesn't use it. We said dodo, and I went to sleep, and I went to sleep maybe like at 9 p.m. and then woke me up like at 5 a.m. and they gave me a uniform, a blue uniform, and then I start the process, and I start to see there was a lot of people around me, and I do remember it was a lot of like very rough people around. They were all I I do remember, or they look like really big, or they look like very skinny, but like they've been like their life has been very rough on them. And they could see me that I didn't have the rough life like them. So it was interesting. I saw that there was like a lot of anger
Yeah.
in the people there because in that time it was like the misfits of Europe. They were going
Yeah.
to the French Foreign Legion. So then I start to find very like I if we talk about the French Foreign Legion, oh we can go the whole entire day. But then I start to find out like there were seriously some really bad people there, and you have to adapt. And then when you see one of them is becomes like your best friend, he's trying to change. He's trying to have a different life. That's
Yeah.
why he's there. They're escaping from many things. Many people ask me if I was escaping from something. I always said, no, I was not escaping. The same story. I said, I was in a bad place. I was useless. I was useless. Some people don't believe it, but the truth is, yeah, it was that. So when I got there, I started to the processing, and I remember first thing I was doing, because the Fort de Nojon, it was just the area of the pre-selection. We're gonna call it like that. It's kind of let's call that is like the pre-rasp,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the pre-rasp. And then so I was there, and I remember I was cleaning a lot. And I had people from all over the world, and every single race was there, everything. So and everybody's just trying to get along. I remember you have already some characters there. I remember this Australian guy, because hey, you have to do a P test, and I'm gonna do the P test, and the guy who was next to me was an Australian guy with his accent. He comes, he's like, "Hey, can you pee here?" Because I wonder what he was doing before, you know. But yeah, there were every single personality you can imagine. So
Oh yeah, so that's quite an introduction.
yeah,
Right.
that was
Well,
the beginning.
for the listeners, usually we get, I was born in ex United States. I went to high school, I went to college, and then I joined the 75th Ranger Regiment of the
Yeah.
Army.
They
It's-
went. What is it that they were? Nothing wrong with this, but they were like majority. Like they were part of the football team, those
Yeah.
things like this. I was absolutely nothing of that. I didn't have no athletic. I was not strong. I did over there in Costa Rica in those times, and I'm still today the majority. There is no like football clubs in
Yeah.
the high school. Only if you go to the rich school. So when I went to the French Foreign Legion, I was completely like didn't know nothing
Right.
about working out. Maybe I knew a little bit about weights, but completely out of shape.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something there. And like you said, I think we could probably talk about the French,
Yes,
the Legionnaire time.
we can go.
Your
We can go.
all day long.
If you want, one day we
Yeah.
can talk about only about that, because that's just imagine we just went like 10 minutes
Yeah.
or 15 minutes, and that was just the little
Yeah.
small introduction of what comes after. Is just it goes
Yeah.
beyond.
So how many years were you in the French Foreign Legion?
So I did exactly as so I started at the end of 2004, and then my contract started in May. So for those times, I was all at the time doing pre-selection and
Yeah.
waiting, and my start started in May, and I finished in May of 2010.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna table the French Foreign Legion stuff. We'll come back to some of it later
Yeah.
as we discuss some of
Yeah.
the leadership topics and everything. But so you transitioned French Foreign Legion to come into the United States.
Yes, that's another story.
Let's delve into that a little bit.
Yeah. So at the end of my career in the French Foreign Legion, I knew again it was like another, how can I, another call, like
Yeah.
when I
Epiphany.
epiphany. That's exactly, that's another epiphany. Something was telling me that I have to leave the French Foreign Legion, because the lifestyle over there, I don't want to get into so much of that, but the lifestyle over there, you really become, I was an animal, but you can really
Yeah.
go very far on it and never come back. And there was a lot of people like that they were never able to come back. The majority, like I will say, is a lot. You can have there like sergeant majors living still in the barracks. So
Right,
that's
yeah.
that's different. No kids, no wife, nothing.
Yeah, kind of a yeah.
And that's their life
Yeah.
for everybody. So you find
A rough culture.
it's a rough
stay in for a
culture,
long
and you
time.
stay there, and then after you get that, and you're unable to be normal.
Right,
Unable, and they're actually, for almost those 6 years that I did, there were actually repercussions that I had after that. It took me a while to try to become normal,
Yeah,
you know.
right.
So the call came, and I'm like, it is time for me to leave. And I was like, but what am I gonna do? All I know is right now, as for the moment, all I know in that moment, it was being a soldier. I love it, and one of the epiphanies that I had, it was that I had a dream, and that it was before I was thinking about coming to United States. I had a dream. I don't want to go through much of that dream because it's very strange, but I had a dream that I was with an American uniform. That I was actually with the what was the gray one? What was the name
The
of that?
ACUs or the yeah,
ACUs.
I think so.
Yeah, I think ASU. No,
Yeah.
ASUs is the ACUs.
The gray ones,
Yeah,
the
gray
terrible
ones.
ones.
Yes, that with the ACUs. When I did basic training. I did ACUs, but I have that dream that I was with that uniform. And the interesting part is that I never seen that uniform before. It was another epiphany. I had a lot of those. Also, more stories I had, but I have one. I had that, and I was like, why am I with that uniform in that dream? And then after like a year later is when the idea came, and I'm like, I have to leave. I want to become professional. Something I want to become a professional. I want to become a real professional good soldier. And then after, I remember that I talked with a guy, and he said you should go to the United States, and I'm like, enjoying the American military. I'm like, all right. It's not like drinking a cup of coffee, you know.
No, yeah.
I don't
It's
have
not like
I-
not crossing the street and grabbing a beer.
exactly,
Right?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly, and I don't have any idea about immigration. I don't have nothing. All we have is just the stories that we saw in the news back in those years, and but I don't have absolutely nothing. But so what I did, it was that 4 or 5 months before I finished my contract with the French Foreign Legion, I came to the United States. I was able to get a visa, you know. Well, how I get a visa is that I planned it. I said, okay, if I ask for a visa after the French Foreign Legion, the Americans are going to ask me, where are you working? And I don't have a job. So they're going to tell me no. So I said, it's better if I ask now, because I have the paperwork that I work with the French army. and they're gonna say yes. And so that's what I did. And so I then applied, and they gave me the visa. And it was different in Latin America. The visa can take 10 months.
Yeah.
They give me the visa the same day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in France it was also, oh, you have the visa. Okay, let's go.
Are you a French citizen at this time?
So when I finished the French Foreign Legion, I finished with the green card.
Okay,
The green
got
card,
it.
but for France.
Equivalent.
Yes,
Okay, got
yes.
it.
I needed to do like one more year.
Yeah.
To get the French citizenship. So following that, I came here to the United States, and the only thing that we knew in the French Foreign Legion was about we knew about the U.S. Army and the Marines, but there was a very big rumor, a huge rumor, that the Marines were taking foreigners. So when I came here, I asked to the Marine guy, "Hey, can I join the Marines?" I came to Pennsylvania, and I choose Pennsylvania because in that time, the immigration wasn't so big in those areas. It was always more in your areas like Texas, Arizona, and things like this. So I actually I tried to do my research. I didn't know nothing, but I tried to do my job. Went to Pennsylvania, and when I was there, the guy said, "No problems. We're gonna take you." I'm like, that sounds really easy.
Yeah.
I said, "No, we're gonna take you. Don't worry. We're gonna take you." He's like, "You understand? Like in 4 months, I finish my contract, and then I'm gonna leave everything behind. I'm gonna come here. I don't have family here. I don't have nothing. I don't have a support there. Like, hey, I'm gonna help you stay here. No, I'm just gonna come here, and I'm gonna figure out how to do it." And so I said, "Don't worry, we're gonna help you." But he said it's so easy, so much. Then I start to understand a little bit about the American culture, and sometimes how they talk, And so I went back to France, finished my contract, finished with honors, and I do remember before I left, the general said, because I never went to Afghanistan when I was in the French Foreign Legion, I was just only in Africa. And they said the general came and he said, back in those times, my name was different. My name was Medina.
What does that mean?
Jose Medina was my name.
Okay.
Back in those times, because they changed my name.
Of course.
Yeah. And so Medina is like, I heard that you are disappointed that you were never able to go to Afghanistan. And I said, no, yeah, I am. If you sign the contract right now, I send you to Afghanistan with the next unit of infantry that is gonna leave like in 4 or 5 months. And I was like, oh my God. And I said, no, I already took a decision. I'm leaving. And where are you going? I didn't say nothing to them. And they said, no, I'm going. I have to go back. I have to go back to home. I have to take care of my family. So I came here to the United States, and I was able to. I was able to have a very good friend that I estimate a lot. That has been one of the big supporters of me from Pennsylvania. And also, there's another person that there were two people from Pennsylvania that they helped me to achieve my goal. So when I came, I go through the process. It was very hard. There was a lot of really bad moments in Pennsylvania. There were moments that we didn't have I didn't have a money, and I couldn't eat and things like this. So it was really tough. There's a fear when
when you got to Pennsylvania, it wasn't as easy as that Marine recruiter.
No,
told you.
it was so let me get to that point. Yeah. So I'm coming here. I'm going to the Marine Corps. To the Marine Corps. Recruiter, yes, the recruiter, and I'm going there like every 2 weeks, and the guy puts me, okay, write this. I need you to fill this paperwork. So, but when I came here to the United States, I came with 6 months. You have 6 months to stay here because I have a tourist visa, and it was very hard because after that you become illegal.
Right.
That was in 2010, 2010. So I'm going through all this process. Yeah, there was no money. Sometimes I didn't have a place to stay, so I have to go to other places to live. It was terrible. But these two people that I know from Pennsylvania that are deeply in my heart, they believe in me. They believe about my about my goal that I came here to serve with the United States. And I believe in United States 100%. I know that some people today they have a different thought of United States, but I believe 100% because I am a good example of what it is of the American dream. You know, and the American dream doesn't mean that I having become a millionaire, but there is there's so many things that I would say that I'm a millionaire
Right.
or rich of the people that I know and the experiences that I have here, and and the amazing friendships and that I have that I have another family. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's really hard to some people. They don't ever gonna have a family, you know. So that's what it makes a rich a person, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So during that time, so this in 2010, these people they helped me so much, and then the Marine Corps, like in month 4, he came to me and he said, "Hey, we cannot help you." Oh, all right, you know, and I was like, okay, what we can do. Why would you cannot help me? Because there is a law, and maybe someone here are gonna listen to this, and there is a law in which any military cannot sponsor a sponsor of a green card. You have to have a green card to get into the military. And I'm like, well, he told me that. That was a really, really good shock. I was very, very sad. I went out, and in the French Foreign Legion, we learned something that you never cry in front of anybody. And why is that in the French Foreign Legion? Because over there, if you cry in front of someone, it's actually you're giving charcoal
Yeah.
for them to attack you.
Right.
So
Right.
over there, it's not gonna be because over there is in the Legion was kind of like jail maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So whoever is like weak,
Not a lot of vulnerability showed
yeah.
over there. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
No, there is.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
There
It's a culture.
It's a culture, you know. It's kind of maybe like a jail culture.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
Don't show weakness,
don't show weakness.
or somebody will exploit it.
They're gonna and I'm telling you, exploited. You're gonna get exploited.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna be mistreated, dehumanized. So never show it. So it's like and this was an Argentine guy, a guy from Argentina, that his parents, his father, and all the males from his side, they were in the Falkland War, Malvinas War, back in 1982. So he came from a lineage of only military. So he was a very tough guy too. And he said, never cry in front of anybody, he said. But he said it so serious. If you're going to cry, run 200 meters and go behind a tree. Yeah. So when I came out from the Marine Corps center, I went outside and I went to a bench and I cried. Because I was thinking about, hey, I made a mistake. Now I don't have nothing to do. I don't have any skills. I don't have nothing. I cannot go back to Costa Rica. There is absolutely nothing for me there. I cannot. If I can go back to the Legion, but I don't even have money for the tickets.
Right.
it's a disaster. And then when I was there, I looked to my right and I was able to see. I was in a park and I was able to see a library. And with the few money that I had, I went to the library, and I said with a terrible English that I had, I went to the library and I took an immigration book, and I started to read it with dictionary, of course. And I actually how I learned English, it was in the French Foreign Legion. Over there, I learned it by speaking with people and with music and movies. So that's how I did it. That's how I learned all my languages, by doing that. And I never had a professor or a teacher to teach me any language. And I apologize sometimes if the words come out here different. But I think that's the one of the uniqueness that I have. You know, that's actually what everybody loves about me. Trying to be authentic. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have met people of my race that they want to disappear completely their language, their accent completely. I do understand when you are in a meeting, you have to give information, you have to be the best in English, but they want to like completely disappear everything. It's like actually you're doing wrong to yourself, because American people, they like to see where you come from. You want to see, like, you're like, ah, yeah, he rolls the R's and
Yeah.
perfecto and all. They love this. And I'm not trying to be like, oh my God, perfect. It's like, this guy, who is he trying to be?
Right.
Is being authentic
Yeah.
is a good thing, you know. So I went through that, and I went through when I was going back to the library. I read all of it, you know, and I found the way to enter. And these two people, they helped me so much to sponsor me and going through the whole entire process. And then, like, approximately like 3 weeks before that I was going to become an illegal, I was able to send all the paperwork. I did it all by myself. Once you do that, you're in process. So you cannot be kicked out. You're not illegal, nothing. And I went through all that. And it was also, it's another story, very good story. But at the end, I was accepted. They told me, yes, I have to. It was a very interesting story too. But I can go forever. You know, I have stories forever. But I was accepted, and they gave me the green card approximately. So I sent the paperwork in November of 2010. By April of 2011, they gave me the green card. Wow. That's how it was, because, like I said, I choose an area where there was not a lot of like immigrants.
Right, so it got through faster.
So it got faster, and also the background. There was actually a guy from immigration that I think he was a veteran, would be possible. So he had.
And he knew your intentions of joining the military.
Exactly. Yeah. He found out about that, and that I was a legionnaire. So he had like an affinity or something that he called him the attention that I was from the French Foreign Legion. So I think this person, he was another one who really pushed the paperwork and made it happen for me to enter to the military. Then after that, I joined I signed the contract in 2011. And in 2000, they push it. In that time, they were like pushing people like 3 months. Yeah, I didn't enter immediately. Oh, I wanted to enter so bad, and it was horrible. At that time, as soon as they gave me in April, they gave me the green card. But in February, I had there's a card that you're allowed to work. Oh yeah. I immediately started to work because I didn't have nothing, and I was working in the company GNC. Oh yeah. Yeah, as a customer service for French for the Canadian French, and so I was it was horrible, the job. I broke I broke 2 times the keyboard. People were really nasty with me. Because of my accent, and they were really bad. They used to say really horrible things to me. So sometimes I explode and I broke the keyboard. The keyboard paid for it. Yeah, the keyboard. But then after that, in 2012, I entered to the Army. Okay, so we're 36 minutes into this. Yeah, we've got Monty to the United States. Just introduction. We're gonna get into his American story now, his military story. Well, we just finished part 1 of my conversation with Monty. I hope you are having as much fun listening to this amazing story as I had fun sitting here recording it with him. Tune in next week for part 2 as we get into more of Monty's story about how he came to the U.S., joined the U.S. military, everything he did in the U.S. military, along with Lancero School, and then his journey into education through his bachelor's degree, his master's degree, and now his pursuit of his doctorate. Just an amazing story. I think we can all agree. And for everybody out there that enjoys this, likes listening to this podcast, I'd ask you please consider becoming a Patreon of the podcast if you want to help me out a little bit. Monetarily, it's greatly appreciated and helps me keep doing what I'm doing here with this podcast and telling amazing stories like this, because I truly think people need to hear it. There's a link in the comments of how you can get to the Leading with Vulnerability Patreon page, and you can see it here in this in the image here I put on screen. So thanks for listening. And tune in next week for part 2 with Monty. I promise you won't regret it. It's another chapter of his amazing story. We'll see you next week.